Is there anything better than a stoppage-time winner for Everton away from home? Dwight McNeil stepped off the bench to lay on an assist for Abdoulaye Doucouré to sweep home with 94 minutes on the clock at the City ground to inflict on Nottingham Forest their first home defeat since November. Thanks to Manchester United's drubbing at Newcastle on Sunday, the Toffees moved into 13th place, the highest berth we have occupied all season, and to within touch and distance of mathematical safety from relegation, although let's be honest, thanks to the sterling work done by David Moyes over the past 3 months, the R word hasn't really been an issue for weeks now, has it? Hello again, Blues. Welcome to another episode of the Evertonia podcast. I, Lyndon, am joined by Andy and Paul to revel in what was Everton's first win since February, but a result that also extends the run under David Moyes since the 19th of January to just one defeat in 12 in the league. And as we've seen from the table that's being circulated on social media since Saturday, if the standings were based on the period since Moyes replaced Sean Dyche, the Blues would be 6th. Andy, a really difficult game on paper, given that Forest were third. Hadn't conceded a goal at home in 3 months, and as I said, hadn't lost at the City ground in 5 months, but one that Everton fully deserved to win. How did you see it?
We did a reverse Everton, didn't we? You know, usually when it's a good time to play us, we do one thing, and it was a bad time to play us, we do another. And I mean, yeah, I didn't really see how we would get the result there in terms of the way they play, because they like to play against a team with the ball, and they like to come forward, and they like to exploit the gaps. And I just thought, if we get drawn out of position like we've seen a few times, it might be a difficult evening. It might be a really difficult evening. It might be a difficult afternoon. But I thought we were really good. I mean, in terms of a structured, organised performance, we've spoken a few times about how you can see this system is really going to work, especially well when you've got a few better executors in it. But I just think this just proves that what he's doing and how he's doing it is working now and can work now. And I think Forest weren't as good. They certainly weren't as fluid, and they didn't look as confident as when they played us at Goodison. But then we've done the flip of that as well, haven't we? And now we have outlet. We have a way of winning a game which we didn't look like we did then. So I think it was a great performance. I think it would have been certainly a feeling of, how did we not win that one? And we would have said that typical Everton thing of, they were there for the taking. How many times have we said that in the last 3 months? They were there for the taking. And they were. And for once we took it. And maybe not kind of, not in the way it looked like we were going to do it. So, no, I was just delighted. It is a win after a few draws makes the draws look better as well, I think. Yep. And you know, if you consider we've lost that one game against Liverpool at Anfield and that's the only one in quite some time, and we've put in some really good results. I think this was a performance to match the results. I know it wasn't. Again, it wasn't. It didn't turn into Brazil, but it was a really being us. In our own little way, it was a really good performance, and it does make you think. It makes you think. Can some of these players be more of a part of it than we thought? With obviously the additions around them, obviously more quality around them, but can some of these players? What I was left thinking is the reason we're doing well is the players on the pitch, and therefore with a few subtle additions, can more of them be a part of it than I thought a few weeks ago? And I don't know, maybe there's not an answer to that, but it certainly makes you think.
I was thinking about Jack Harrison and presume that's probably one of the ones you're referring to. But unless he goes mad in these next 6-7 games, it feels to me a bit more one good game in 6. You know what I mean? Rather than you need one bad game in 6, really, don't you? You need the other way around, don't you? And I don't know. His form's been. Yeah, I like Jack because he's a really good pro and he seems a good lad, doesn't he? But it seems difficult to sort of keep him on, really. I think, but he did really well. I was pleased for him on Saturday because you see how gutted he looks when he's played badly, don't you? When he feels like it just looks like he's really like he really carries it, doesn't he? When he feels he hasn't done his best, which is good, I guess. But yeah, it's it makes you feel sorry for him. But in any event, it might depend a lot on what Leeds United do anyway. If Leeds United go up, then you don't know what the deal is with Jack Harrison. I suppose money's not going to be fluid over the summer. Maybe it'll be a case of another loan if they don't come up. Who knows? But which might be okay. But let's see. But yeah, it was a good game, wasn't it? I thought it was a bit of a game for the purists, really. It wasn't like an absolute cracker, like end-to-end goal fest, but it was a real good battle, I thought, there today, the other day. Nottingham Forest weren't at the best, but we stuck at it. But one thing I thought in the game, I just thought the goal's not going to come here, as Andy kind of just says. We created plenty of chances, but I thought we had to work really hard for our chances. Because while Nottingham Forest they didn't play well, you could see why they're very resolute, they're very aggressive. They don't give you much, you know what I mean? So we really had to work hard for what we did create, and then I thought, oh, we're going to lose it here after all that when they got the late corner and you thought their first corner of the game. It's so typical, isn't it? But then we got what we deserved. It was fantastic to see that go in. So yeah, just great. And weren't you jealous you weren't in that away? And then when you saw everyone celebrating like mad, it was it was a fantastic scene. So that was great. But it reminds me a lot back to when David Moyes was here the other time, when we away games then all games really, but we were always in them, if you know what I mean, and like we always like just had the setup of a way of sort of, I don't know, just a style of sort of like being in the game but creating stuff, and like you found with David then we didn't really lose many away games, or if we did, it was not normally just by the odd goal. I thought we were always kind of in games quite a lot, and a bit like that last season as well with Sean Dyche really, but obviously it slipped away a bit this season. But yeah, just something I like about sort of David Moyes, Everton away from home, and just you see a real sort of giving it everything display once again, and great to see. We needed a win. We would, in terms of we were really due one. It's been I've been referencing far too many draws lately, but it's just kept things ticking away, hasn't it? And to now be above Spurs and Man United, it's what we should be aspiring to do for the rest of the season. And we've got to be aiming to be catching Brentford and Palace and getting as high as we can, I think, because it's the players they need something to aim for because they're really giving it everything here. So let's aim for the heady heights of 12th, 13th. Why not?
Why not, indeed. Yeah, when we previewed the match last week, I said that it was a contest between two teams who don't want the ball, but I think it's a bit of a disservice, I think, to how we've been under Moyes, because that was the attitude under Sean Dyche. But we clearly saw, an Everton team more willing to control the game, own possession, and try and beat Forest that way. And as you said, Andy, I thought Forest looked particularly poor, surprisingly poor. And I think obviously there's part of that's down to the way that we played. I have a Forest supporting friend who said that they just looked a bit tired, and perhaps the occasion, or not the occasion, the kind of the pressure of wanting to try and stay in that top 4, top 5 is starting to get to them. But compared to the team that beat us so comfortably at Goodison, they looked completely different side. And I think that we played it very smart, dictating the game through possession without exposing ourselves too much and playing into Nuno's hands and the way they want to play on the counter. They didn't look very comfortable when the onus was on them to try and play through us. And so their only real avenue was through counter-attacking. I can't remember more than 2 or 3 occasions where we actually, where they actually got at us quickly in transition like that. And when they did, either, Jordan Pickford was there or the defence was there to shut them down. So for me, I think it was perhaps our most complete performance, certainly away performance since Moyes' return, which is not to say that it was anything special overall, but because, as we know, we didn't really create a ton of goal-scoring chances. But from a consistency standpoint across the 90 minutes, I thought, and in terms of the way that the team controlled the game, it was, from my perspective, a very complete performance, and one that got its right reward at the end. As you've already mentioned there, Paul, our away form was a huge issue under Dyche, as we know. But since Moyes has come in, we've now won 3 on the road already. So, Andy, for you, what's the difference been under Moyes?
Crikey, where do you start? I think I think there's more risk. We're playing with more risk, and that's not to suggest that Everton are suddenly bombing forward and being kind of gung ho. We're not. We're clearly not. But what we had under Sean Dyche and what we've had for 2 years, I'd say, are pretty solid foundations defensively. It was just, as we've said time after time after time, what are they doing when they get the ball in training? What's the plan? And you couldn't see a way of converting a solid defensive performance into anything going forward. And that's why we're relying on so much on set pieces. I think now the players are playing with risk, and you've only got to see that the goal that Doucouré scored at the weekend, considering this is 94th minute, there were 4 players rushing forward in that attack. It wasn't just Doucouré who just happened to find the ball. They are, as soon as they win it, they are now getting forward quicker. And I think the whole team is just more aware of what we're doing attacking wise. I mean, there's a definite confidence, and you noticed it maybe not in the Villa game because that was too soon, but you kind of noticed an attacking confidence and a little bit of like the world off their shoulders almost straight away. And it was almost as if Moyes has gone in and said something quite simple, like, you are clearly all good players, and we're going to use your skills a bit more, your skill set a bit more than we have been. And I think he was willing, maybe after that Villa game, he might have been willing to take more of a risk and think, well, we're going to try and win a game rather than trying to stay in a game. And I think Sean Dyche, you can see why. I think he would have been quite happy to draw his way to, what's it going to be, 30 points, 32 points maybe. He would quite happy to draw his way there. And you can see why. You can see that he thought with the squad available that's the best way to keep the points ticking over, to get to where we want to get. That should give us enough to stay in the league. Where I think Moyes has just come in and gone, well, we're going to try and score goals and win games. And I just think it's a mentality thing. I mean, the players haven't changed, that's for sure. And when we're talking about players that I feel might be a bigger part of it going forward, I think about James Garner now. I was thinking a few weeks ago, well, he's had a run. He's been okay. He's been pretty good. We all think of the ball through for Beto for that goal against Leicester, but there haven't been many moments. But I think at the weekend there were a few more. He looked a better player. Doucouré, okay, well, you can talk to the cows come home about Doucouré, and you'll find all different sorts of opinions about every part of his game. But is there a place for him? Yeah, there might be. Those two definitely sprung out to me at the weekend. Of okay, well, we know you're not the complete package, but if we can give you help, and if we can put better players around you, and maybe use you 2 games in 4, 2 games in 3, rather than all the time, then there's a benefit to that. But anyway, going back to Moyes, I mean, yeah, I think it's confidence and I think it's risk. And we're not playing with loads of risk, but we're playing with loads more risk than we were. And we've found a way to use the players' attacking abilities, which we all agree we don't have oodles of attacking ability in that squad. Not as much as you look around the other Premier League teams kind of just above us. They've got standout attacking players. We don't really, but we've used their skills much better, I think, than the last manager. You just look at what happened to Beto almost straight away. I mean, I know it's kind of tailed off, but we used his skills for a month, and look what it got us. We weren't trying to play to him as a target man. We were trying to play in front of him where he wants the ball. And I think that's the case for a few of them, really. So I don't think it's rocket science what he's done. I think it's just given them confidence and said we are going to try to attack. And you could see that Saturday. You could see that we were set up to try and win the game, rather than, well, we're just going to stick in it, and if we get 1 point, that'll be great.
2 things I've written down from it, because I hadn't really thought about an awful lot. One is fullbacks joining in the attack a lot more. The improvement in and just the confidence in the Vitaly Mykolenko is playing for all to see. Really, looking so much more composed. He looks more relaxed. Much less sort of uptight and and rigid. So I just that just goes with sort of having more freedom and getting more of the ball, and so it felt like when actually it was against Forest, I'm pretty sure, earlier in the season, and he had a really poor game. You felt so sorry for Mikalenko, and put a ball in, it would miss everyone. It looked like the world was on his shoulders. And now if he does that, it's kind of like, okay, because he's putting more than one ball in a game, and that's probably the only ball then he put on in the first game. He wasn't really involved in the attack an awful lot, and that's probably down to instruction, I suppose. So that's been a big one. And I think the other one that comes to mind is perhaps better use of substitutions. Now he's been I suppose he's got the benefit, David Moyes, of having a player which improves our quality in Charlie Alcaraz, and I think I think the impact he had on the game shouldn't be understated. Actually, he just knits things together very, very well, and it's just another dimension which we just didn't have. That's another really, really handy player. Okay, I don't mean to have a whinge at Sean Dyche. How he'd use Alcaraz, I'd love to have seen how that experiment would have worked. He wouldn't be an Everton player, I'm pretty certain, would he? But I think he's made a real difference too. Really good player off the bench, I think, and starting. But he's making a big difference coming into games too, which is really helpful. But so they're the two things I'm putting my finger on, and not just Alcaraz, but just better use of substitutions overall, as Andy kind of alluded to with risk. It's he'll fairly often make 2 or 3 subs at once if he feels the game needs that. He perhaps didn't see that quite as much with Sean Dyche. So it's just fresh thinking, isn't it? Really, it's just fresh eyes on things, and just different methods. That's nothing too rocket science about it, but just I think more of an attack-minded focus, and that involves fullbacks going forward, and involves your substitutes being used more regularly, I guess, I suppose. And it's coming up trumps, but Alcaraz and fullbacks would be the 2 reasons, I think.
I think that's a good shout. Sorry, go on, Andy.
No, just to talk about Mikalenko, for me, he's a lot more relaxed when he's on the ball because he's not defending the whole time.
Yeah.
I think when that's your only job, and you must be kind of almost concerned to do anything else. It's almost a whole part of your game that disappears. And I think it's natural when you do any job, like whatever your day job is. If you have 5 different goes at something, by the 4th or 5th go, you'll probably be like, "Oh, I'm into this now. I've got a rhythm. I've got a. Where before, poor lad would get a nosebleed if he came out of his own box, and it was you could see it. You could see that he just wasn't used to being in control of the football and being in an attack. And now, because we are naturally attacking more, and Paul's quite right. The fullbacks are massively different now. I think it just gives him more of an opportunity to play a part, and the more you play the part, the better you're going to feel about yourself. It's just human nature.
Yeah, the fullbacks have obviously been key to the fact that we are just playing that bit further forward up the pitch, and as you both said, with a bit more ambition. I think to be fair to Dyche, in certain instances, particularly I'm thinking of the Manchester City away game where we could have won it in a very similar 4-on-2 or 3-on-2 break as we had at Forest. Obviously, we didn't convert that one, but he had kind of engineered that game to the point where we could do that. But that was a rarity. Whereas under Moyes, we're in the game. We've been in all of these games. Obviously, we ran Liverpool very, very close, and when you're in the game right to the end and you have the chance of winning it, the criticism of Dyche was that particularly away from home we were going to set up just not to lose, and I think that was the approach at Southampton, and we got paid. We paid the price for it. We almost paid the price at Leicester for sitting back too much against a very, very poor team and end up drawing a game that we should have won but could have lost it the way that we were sitting back. So I think that's kind of a big difference for me under Moyes, is that we've just got a bit more ambition, and as you said, Paul, just that bit more risk. And sometimes you might get burned by it, but I would much rather have that approach away from home. Just have a bit more belief and a bit more ambition to try and get the kind of results. And at the end of the day, you've got 3,000 Evertonians on the road. You want to give them something, And as we've said many times on the pod, feeling for those fans who under Deitch were travelling all over the country and not even seeing a shot on target, let alone goals or anything. It makes a big difference. But Doucouré is obviously there's big debate around him almost on a weekly basis now, but particularly on Saturday we've talked about his future as part of our rundown on those players who are out of contract this summer and who we'd keep and who we'd let go. The situation has changed, I suppose, now because the club have obviously let this clause expire, the option to extend his contract by a further year on his current terms, which means if he wants to stay, he'll have to agree to a new package. But I mean, for me, that if he were to sort of agree to something like 75k a week on 2 years, I think he'd make a very good squad player. And so because I committed what to some is the foolhardy error of tweeting during the game when I said on Saturday that the game, I think this is round about the halfway, I think this is a half time, that the Saturday was an example of why Doucouré should be moved on, because just as was the case with Deitch, he was becoming a bit of a crutch for Moyes, in my opinion, and that's not to minimise the enormous contribution that he's played to our survival over the past 2 to 3 years. And nor is it to say that he wouldn't be a valuable squad player. But, my concern is that if he stays, that Moyes kind of remains wedded to the idea of Doucouré being a first-choice starter from week to week in that role behind the striker. Because, he likes a big number 10. He had Fellaini, obviously. He had Souček at West Ham. Obviously, Tim Cahill's a very different kind of player. And if Alcaraz can become that Tim Cahill-esque player that we think he could be, as he grows with us, then maybe that's, he sort of goes back to that kind of profile of player. But I think we need to start looking at significant upgrade in that part of the pitch now that we're looking to progress and be a top 10 team. And Moyes is talking about doing what Forest have done this season, next season. I mean, this is all great to hear. That should be the ambition, because as we've seen from the league, if you can get a bit of momentum together and get your recruitment right, you can be mixing it up at the top end of the table quite easily, particularly if teams like Spurs and United are going to keep going through crisis from year to year to year. So, Moyes has talked about bringing in elite players to take us to the next level. And so a player who's scored 3 goals all season in what is a very important position on the pitch, that number 10 role, that doesn't scream elite to me. Excuse me, but we've seen his limitations with the ball at his feet, and there's an argument to be made that perhaps we might have scored more goals in more games if a different player had been there, if we'd had more quality in that position. I think we need to find that out next season. We need to be looking to someone who can be a much more all-round player. But if Doucouré wants to stay and he agrees to a lower wage package and for a couple more years as a squad player, I'd be all for it.
Absolutely. And I think he not just the goal. I mean, there's a time and a place for him, and I think if we can build a squad that it's kind of a bit more horses for courses. If we're in a game where we need a kind of a player like Doucouré who kind of defends from the front and can press high and can give him loads of energy, and I think sometimes we do him down a little bit. I think the timing of his runs into the box is very good. He's very good at that. What happens when he's there? Who knows? But I think the way he moves around the pitch is very useful to us, and I do think sometimes with the likes of Doucouré and Harrison, and Lindstrom when he was playing, we focus on the end bit is not quite right. The end bit, the cross was rubbish, or Doucouré misses a chance, or he kind of miscontrols just when you don't want him to miscontrol. But sometimes they're making these chances, or it's a kind of successful until that point because of who they are, if that makes any sense. So if you take Doucouré out of the team, you take his technical lack of ability sometimes out of the team, but you also take quite a lot more out of the team that you might struggle to replace sometimes. So it's a kind of, I think there's definitely a space for it. and it's not every week. And at the moment, it is every week because we haven't got anything else. But I think if we had other players, had other options, it would make probably him feel like a better player when it is Doucouré's turn to make a difference, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think it makes total sense. I think it might just depend on budget a little bit as well. I think really it depends on what can we spend and what obviously we all kind of know the the main positions which absolutely need to be addressed. If if number 10 isn't one where they can, or whatever they call these position is, whatever you want to call it, if that position isn't really something they feel they need to address, then you're probably comfortable with them for another year or so, I suppose. If you could stay around for a squad player for a year or two, then great. I guess the good thing with Doucouré is that he's relatively versatile as well across the midfield. He doesn't have to be in that position. He can drop deeper, so can cover a few different positions there. So I can somehow. I find it hard to imagine life without him, Everton now, Doucouré, because he's just been such a big part of things since around about 2020, 2021 now. It just feels like he's been such an important player all that time. He's popped up with so many important goals and just been a really important presence. It's hard to imagine him not playing for Everton. Weirdly now, even he's never been the most adored player somehow, but his contribution to Everton's been, well, frankly, enormous, really, hasn't it? In the last few years, it's incredible, actually. So you have to sort of keep an open mind on that. Yeah, I could see him being there somehow. I think whether that's a squad player or such as finances, we need him to go again next season in a similar position. It's not going to be, we're not going to have tons of money to spend, I don't think, in the summer. It's not going to be simple, I wouldn't have thought, because we've got so much to bridge. We've got so much to do and what will be quite limited, in terms of positions we have to fill. So I think they'll find a space for him, whether that's a permanent starter or not. I think he'll be there next season.
Yeah, I think you're right. If he agrees to it. Obviously, we had Armando Broja was given the first choice striking role on this occasion. Maybe Moyes has got an eye on just the how few games there are left to sort of assess him, given that he can't play against Chelsea, so he's really only got, beyond this past weekend, he's got 5 more games. Andy, how did you feel he did? Did he take the opportunity, do you think?
That wasn't a good sigh. That was that sounded pretty ominous.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of not. It's not a no, but it's not quite a yes either, is it? In short bursts, yes, I think he did show what he can do, and he moves with the ball well. We've said this before, haven't we, about him? He's not a player I saw an awful lot of, intimately before he came to us. I was aware of him, obviously, in his loan spell at Southampton went really well and whatever else, but I didn't really watch him that closely. But he's someone that moves well with the ball. His awareness is good. He can bring other players in, and I think in short bursts you saw that. And it is it's a different, I would say, a different level of technicality and maybe game intelligence than Beto. And that's not to do Beto down. His game is not that. But it's definitely a different thing. And it's not your kind of towering Dominic Calvert-Lewin, that kind of striker either. So he is different. And he's certainly a player there, definitely. And you can see why, obviously, Chelsea have got hold of him. And you can see why clubs have taken him on loan. Did he do enough to make me think that he should get the next one? I'm slightly biased towards Chimiti here, only because he's ours, and I'd like to see him get a chance like Broja did. Did he do it? Give him one more. Let's see what he can do in the next game. He is coming back from constant injury, so you've got to take that into account. And especially when you play like him, he's quite technical, isn't he? And I think he would probably really, really benefit from 4 or 5 games on the trot. have we got that much time to give him now? I don't know. I'll probably give him one more and see how it goes. I mean, I heard the stat in the week after the Forest game that he hasn't actually had a shot as an Everton player yet.
I was about to
really?
Yeah. He's not a shot on target.
Oh, okay. Has he had a shot off target?
He's had a shot. There was one where, who was it against?
There was
Goodison,
one.
I think, where he
the Wolves.
Yes, where he flew across goal and
yeah,
wide. But he hasn't had a shot on target yet.
On target.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, we're scratching around to remember the shot.
So I mean, I think that. I mean, what does that say? Does that say something about him, or does that say something about the team he's been playing for and the systems he's been playing in? But I think even the kind of let's say even Beto. I say even Beto. That I don't mean that, but when Beto was playing in that team on and off, stuff happened when Beto was on the pitch. Some of it not great, but stuff happened. And we said this before, didn't we? The chaos factor of Beto makes stuff happen. So, but I've said it 3 different times so far. 3 different ways so far. For Broja, I mean, I don't get the sense that much at the sharp end is happening, and he's quite frustrating in that way.
I think he's a really, really, really good player, actually, Broja. I don't think we should sign him on injury record alone, and I don't think we're going to see the best of him. But we're not, because we haven't got, there's not enough games. It's a shame his injuries have been such that this season that we haven't been able to see that, because I think he's a real good player there. He's got something. It seems impossible to get the ball off him. It felt like numerous times. It felt like when there's about 4 Forest players around, he could just hold them all off. He's so strong. He's very good at keeping the ball and bringing others into play. He's probably a pretty handy player to use away from home. Maybe when you sort of you need someone to hold the ball up and stick a bit more up there. I think he's really good. I just don't think we should sign him because of injury record, and maybe we need a bit more up there. But I think just the last 2 seasons, the number of injuries for someone of his age, you have to be a bit concerned. And as I said, even for a loan space, I just don't really. Yeah, I think it would just feel like too much of a gamble of just getting. I think we're going to be reliant on loans a bit again next season, and you need them to be able to contribute, not be injured for most of the season. So it's a shame, because I think he could be a good player and he could be a good option, but I just can't see a situation where it's worth signing him. And again, you have to look at the stats in front of goal as well. And if there's nothing really happening there, then that's that really. Probably it was little things he does though. That lovely little header he put in, which Ndai nearly got on the end of in the first half. That was you could maybe do other things as well. But yeah, I think it's probably we've had a little look at him, and we probably needed him to just blow us away there and score a couple of goals, really take the game out of the scruff of the neck. I guess was probably what we were looking for, and that didn't quite happen. And I don't know. You want to win the game. Man City always has to play the best team, not to win the game. Really, in that instance, the 11 he wants, that he thinks can win the game the best. And you think Broja can do it. If Broja is the one for that, then great. But I don't think we can really afford going into the City game going, let's have a look at Broja. We could probably do that against Ipswich. But probably not against against Man City. He has to play his best card there, really. So I like him. I think he could be a really good player, but I can't see a reason to sign him.
No, on evidence to date, I would agree. I mean, he has been very unlucky with injuries, but he does have that record, and as such, he would, at the price that the option that we have, 30 million is a lot of money to spend on a player. We haven't really had that much chance to assess. I think I've mentioned before that it's possible we could arrange another loan with Chelsea, and that might not be the worst idea in the world. He's kind of in between sort of Beto and Calvert-Lewin for me. Then he can hold the ball up better. He can make the ball stick, as you say. He allows us to play to feet a bit more than Beto, because Beto's first touch is hit and miss at best. But he runs the channels really well, like Calvert-Lewin does. I think, like DCL, he benefits from having someone playing closer to him. And in that instance, it might actually be interesting to see him play alongside Alcaraz, because obviously, as we discussed ad nauseum with Doucouré, he's not always the best partner when you're wanting to play to feet and unlock defenses with sort of intricacies on the edge of the box. And I think Broja would actually suit that kind of approach. So yeah, as I say, he can't play at Chelsea, so maybe he does get one more chance against City at the weekend. Is that the kind of game you want to throw Chermiti into? I really, as I think we said last time, I really want to see Chermiti start, and I think he will get one. Well, I hope he will before the end of the season, possibly against Ipswich maybe, or even Southampton, just to sort of give him a run out from the start. Because as we said, he's ours. Of all of them, maybe even more so than Beto. If we're thinking of moving Beto on in the summer, who knows what the thinking there is. So. Yeah, Moyes is clearly having sort of shuffling things around and trying to see who can do what, and it's been unfortunate for Broja. I just don't. There's lots there, but I don't know if there's enough there, if you know what I mean, from what we've seen. So we'll have to see what happens. But the other player who came in was James Garner, who came back in for Tim Irabunum. Playing against his old team against Forest, almost he had a decent effort in the first half. That I think if he'd struck it maybe a bit more true, might have caused the goalkeeper more problems. But Andy, how did you feel he did? And that's another really, really important position in the team. Do you think he's done enough to suggest that he should be a sort of a first choice starter? Again, hopefully Idrissa Gueye signs the contract that apparently we've now offered him. So, do you see that midfield partnership being the go-to next season?
No, I think that's quite an easy one. I like James Garner. Yeah. I think he's a good footballer. He's really good technically. He's got a good dead ball. I just feel like when you mentioned just then what was the kind of highlight of his performance, it was a kind of shot that didn't go in, that kind of didn't really trouble the keeper that much. And I just think, again, you've got that execution, that productivity thing. We were talking just a minute ago about kind of when we're summing up, we said with Broja, like we're trying to remember a shot he had. And yes, I know these players haven't had James Garner hasn't had a massive run in the team because he's been injured. So you want, I think, a bit more from what's gonna be really your main midfielder to make things happen. If Idrissa Gueye stays, which I desperately hope he does, because I think he's still one of the best in the division at what he does. I think you want the other one. It simply has to do more in a football match that you can write on a bit of paper at the end of it. I hate assists, so let's leave that metric well alone. But I think you have to see more of what he was doing against Leicester, a defence-splitting ball, or a wonderful cross, or a shot that goes in, or I think he's great, James Garner, at between the boxes. I think he can keep the ball, he can pass well, he's got his head up. He's a good player. I just think where we want to get, I would probably want someone else to come in and go, okay, I'm the main man in midfield. Let's make things happen. I know it's a bit unfair, but if you watch the Newcastle game against United, their midfield has a blend now of everything. They have power, they have pace, they have passing, they have another P that I can't think of, precision. They have, but they have tangible moments in a football match where you go, okay, these guys they're on top of the game. And I just don't think James Garner's done that much, and it's a shame because I like him and he's a likable guy and he's a likable player, but I just think if we're going to be doing what Moyes wants to do next season and doing, a Forest, for example, I think you want your main, what would it be, the number 8 in this new speak we talk now? I mean, he probably would be our number 8. I think you want Yeah, you want somebody who's going to, I think, just affect the game a bit more in moments.
It's funny you mentioned Newcastle. I was going to say it's Guimaraes versus Longstaff, isn't it? It's that kind of
exactly
shift.
That. Yeah, and Longstaff, we were interested in him for some time, weren't we? I mean,
we still are apparently.
He is that. He's that very, very tidy midfielder, and he does a bit of everything really well. But he's not Guimaraes, is he? He's just not, and that's probably why we were in the market for him and not.
Right.
But I hope that would be a priority, really. Maybe not as much of a priority as the number 9, which we've got to sort out. We've got to sort out pace in the team. So, but beyond those two things, I would love us to get a midfielder who is kind of able to really affect it.
Oh, you make me sad. I'm a big fan of James Garner. Make me sad.
Well, so am I. I am too, but I just don't know whether in that run of games, I don't know whether I can really think of the moments that he's provided. Really.
No, what you're saying isn't unfair. Maybe that's why I feel so sad, because maybe it's truth hurts. I don't know. Yeah, I think and I'm just thinking about James, and I think he's good at everything. He's not really, he's a good passer. He's got a good cross on him. He's got a good work ethic. He's a good tackler. He's got good nous. He's got good positional sense. He's got good awareness. He's got all these things, but he's not great at any of them things. And that's probably what you're kind of getting at. It's if you're looking to extend to another level, you want a brilliant player. You compare that with with a Fellaini or something like that we plucked out, or someone that really brings. I know they're different players, but someone really brings that increases that quality significantly. So yeah, no, I get what you mean. I think it's just they got. I'd love to know. A mate was asking us the other day, what Everton been linked with anybody over the summer? I was just like, not really. I mean, there's been nothing really. Like, you're getting kind of quite lazy sort of ex-West Ham players sort of connections, aren't you? But that's all. Cards seem very close there. I'm sure the targets are there, but cards seem very, very locked away in Moyes' data room, don't they? Like these players that were after, but. And they'll only know, the budget that they got to work with, I suppose, come the end of the season too, and in terms of where we finish, etc., etc. But it's about priorities, position at a time, I imagine, and what they feel, but where they feel that order is. Can they get by with another season with Gay, Garner, Idabunum, Doucouré, or do they need one or two more? It depends. I really think it'll be this walk, not run approach, and that's the thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if Garner's the midfielder, for next season. I don't know if they're going to go all in on a. I think there's other positions to address first myself. But I don't know. It's impossible to know until we know what the areas are. Whichever way you look at it, I'd certainly want to keep James Garner, because he's certainly if you look at it sort of whether that's a starter or a squad player. He's a squad player you want really more than Doucouré if you're looking to keep one of the two. I'd say, because he's younger and he can do a lot more. You know what I mean? But I think there's definitely plenty of ability in there. But you're right. If let's be honest, if James Garner moves on, he's not really scaling upwards too far. I wouldn't have thought from Everton. You know what I mean? It's not like a top 6 team is going to be looking at him going, yeah, we need him. You know what I mean? So I'm with you, actually. Maybe just a bit. I don't know. Certain players you get a bit of a soft spot for, and I guess he's one, because I just think he puts so much into games, and he really sort of he does give it. And by the end of games, he's really buzzing with adrenaline and working really, really hard, and he's got a good attitude. But I take it. I take your point. We can sadly take your point that we can. It's an area we could improve.
It's the world connection, isn't it? That's what it is.
That's the one.
No, I agree. He's the kind of player that you want around. His attitude is great. And as you say, he's got loads of qualities, loads of ability, but he's still young. There's still time, but at the moment he isn't, as you say, that sort of in that elite bracket, but as a squad player, definitely.
And there's nothing to say that we're shopping in the elite bracket either, which is where I feel slightly unfair there. That I'm saying we want Newcastle's midfield. Well, that probably cost you north of £100 million. I mean, we're not just going to go and be able to pluck a Szoboszlai or name a top midfielder from the top teams. We're just not going to be able to go and get them. I don't mean that. I just mean I think there might be options even at our price range that, like Paul said, are excellent at doing something. Like whether they're a ball player or they're a bit of a destroyer, or I don't know. It just I know we can't shop in that market, so I'm not suggesting that just because he's not an elite midfielder I don't like him. It's just I think I'd want a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think is just quick as well. One maybe like Black Mark is perhaps like a injury record a little bit too. He's had a couple of fairly lengthy injuries now as well, which is always a lot. Yeah. So that's something to maybe be a bit concerned about as well.
Yeah. So we talked about whether Broja should play against City, but is he the one who should get the nod up front over Beto, or do you think Beto should come back in?
Ooh.
It's doing the horses for courses thing. In that, is this the kind of opposition that who would be better? I suppose. Are we going to be playing more on the counter aspects? Well, we will be. We won't have as much of the ball, so maybe Beto is the answer for this one.
Yeah, you might be right. Although at the Etihad, kind of Broja came into that game
and played well.
Actually helped link the bit to get to the counter, didn't he?
Right.
Where Beto is the counter, if you see what I mean. Gosh.
I'd go Broja, to be honest.
Yeah, why not?
I'd go Broja.
I think I'd go Beto, just for like pace on the counter. More pacing behind, perhaps. It's a difficult one, but like I say, I don't think it's a game we can go like, let's take another look at Broja and say it's got to be whatever David thinks is the team. I'm not saying he didn't do that on Saturday, but like and he's got to have a look at his players, yes. But against Man City, you can't be messed around with like, let's just have a look at this player, see how he does here. We got to go. And let's be fair, like don't you want to sort of kick on a bit like this season as well in terms of finishing higher? I'm really that I really sort of like got really optimistic after the last game. I really want us to sort of I don't really think we should be 5 points behind Brentford and Palace the amount of draws we had, and many of which we could have won. I mean we could have beaten Brentford really. The amount of chances we missed.
Should yeah.
Well, Beto was the reason why, I guess. But
Wolves is also another missed opportunity. Wolves away, and again. I think Beto had a chance there, so I agree. We should. I feel frustrated that we're not higher up, but
I definitely
not sort of as you say, not run before we can walk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I don't know. It'd be great to get one last win over City, wouldn't it, at Goodison? But I don't know. Over to Moyes, I guess. Play the wild card, Chimiti. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, the way that City are playing and the way that we are playing, should we not? I mean, obviously City came back against Palace and blew them away, and they've got quality all over the place. And Kevin De Bruyne is going out on a high, but I think there's no reason why we can't. They're not the invincible City of years gone by. Let's put it that way.
No, I think we proved that when we were there, didn't we?
Yeah.
It was nothing like the games we'd had at the Etihad for some years. So I'm going to stick. I'm going to go with Broja. For the right reasons, not just because I want to look at him. And we know we've got Beto for the last half an hour if we're chasing it.
In terms of other positions of players where we might want to have more look at them, I'm hoping at some point that Nathan Patterson gets a start at right back. I don't think City's the game for it, but certainly looking ahead to some of the games coming up.
Yes.
Yeah, it'd be good. Yeah, I mean, anything like Ipswich, Fulham, Southampton would be interesting because I guess you really want to stick your best team up for that one, I suppose. The last one at Goodison.
I'd like Seamus to play in that one, honestly.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
I think he was fit. he was going to be named in the team on Saturday apparently, and it was a last minute withdrawal.
Oh, really?
To come out of the team, but so he is fit to play apparently. But I
Well,
I don't want him to play before Southampton in case he gets injured again.
As in the team, in the 11?
No, in the squad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in the squad.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd be interested to see. I mean, we're thinking way far ahead there. I get, probably the best sort of team of like, and then, a few farewell appearances perhaps from Dominic and Keane and, what I mean, and, Seamus probably. Almost certainly, really. You can't see Seamus staying on another year as a player. But we'll cross that bridge in a few weeks, I suppose, won't we? Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to have a good look at some of the players. I guess Moyes, I guess Moyes does, but I just think so. I don't know. Like, say City aren't what they were, but I think they've picked up a fair bit. And I mean, they were 2 down, could have been 3 down against Pat. That felt a bit like the old City in a way, just coming out and just smashing the team, haven't gone 2 down. I watched them in a cup against Bournemouth a few weeks ago as well, and I thought they looked really at it. They really sort of, did not give up on winning that game and came back. The only really poor game was the Manchester derby. That was a really dire match, but seem a lot more at it at the moment to me, City. I don't know, so yeah, I wouldn't be lulled into this false sense of thinking, oh, they're not up to much at the moment. I think they're looking a bit better, a lot better than they had been.
No, I wasn't going that far.
But yeah, it's certainly like looking back at the, obviously the City results, when we used to win a fair amount of games against them, and it feels so long ago now, doesn't it? Since we, and it's like I'd really like us to sign off one last game against Man City with at Goodison Park with a win, because it's been pretty miserable the last since we beat them 4-0, I think. So yeah, fingers crossed we can pull that one out the bag, but I think it'll be a good game. Could go either way, that I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, and we can talk about looking ahead to team selection for that final game, obviously closer to the time. But at the time of recording this, we still don't know when that Southampton game is going to take place. And there's been a lot of talk, a lot of discussion on social media, on other podcasts about when that game should be played. What's the preferred date? I mean, Paul, as you as a season ticket holder, what would be your preferred day and time for that Southampton match, the last ever one?
Well, definitely the Sunday. I just think it just gives people more, more time in the day to enjoy the whole experience, really, and to sort of, whether that's in the pub or just taking in every last bit of Goodison in the afternoon and walking around, or whatever it is that your routines and whatever they are, rituals are, then it's your last chance to go and do that, isn't it? I know, Andy, you always say you love that walk around Goodison Park. You probably want to do that in the light of day rather than rushing from Bristol or whatnot, on the on the Monday. Certainly, I quite often have to work in Bolton on Mondays. I don't know if we will that day. I'd probably make my excuses to work from home, but sometimes I literally have to be in, and that would be a real shame if I have to be in the office and got to scramble back from Bolton to Liverpool and probably have to drive and not really have time to get home, and probably want to have a few drinks, and then you got to worry about work the next day. So it's I think Sunday certainly. As to what time, I'm pretty ambivalent about it, really. If it was you wouldn't want it to be midday, 12:30, but anything 2-3 onwards I'm pretty comfortable with, as long as a bit of time before and after. Ideally about 4ish, I guess, something like that. But I think on the Sunday is important. It seems more likely to be an evening thing from what we hear, isn't it? On the whether we just don't know if it's Sunday or Monday, but definitely the Sunday over the Monday for me, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going, and whatever time they could put it at 3:00 in the morning, and I'd be there, But it's a classic. It's the classic toss-up between the priorities of the fans that are actually going to the game, and actually what it means to people who have Goodison as their special place, and a TV audience. It's that classic thing, and let's see where their priorities lie, shall we? Shock horror, Monday night.
Yes.
Personally, I'm with Paul. as a fan who's going to that game, and I'm trying to imagine what that day's going to look like and feel like, and whatever else, and I'm I wouldn't say I'm not dreading it, but I think there's going to be a lot of emotion around that day. And I think people that go to the game, they need time that day. Whenever the kickoff is, they need time to mark that occasion how they see fit. And I just think the Monday, it's a school day. It's people work on a Mondays. Obviously, people work at the weekends, but a lot of people will work on a Monday. There's this kind of scramble to get there. And after the game, what's it going to be finished at 10 o'clock?
It would kick off at 8, yeah, exactly.
So you're not going to get, you may not get as much of that kind of lingering, oh, this is it, the feeling of I'm just going to sit here for 5-10 minutes and just take this in. Because it's Tuesday tomorrow, because people... I'm just thinking, I travel, 3 hours up to Liverpool. People that have got tickets to that game will come from far longer than that. And, I just think it's just unfair to put it on a day that it wasn't originally built for. I know games change. I know they do. But this one, I think this needs... I think this needs the respect, really, of the match-going fan, and not just what is going to sell most on TV or whatever. We want Goodison to be front and centre. Yes, we want everybody to look at our dear old place and go, oh, wow, this is a bit of a moment, whoever you support. And, of course, it's good for the club to have that. But I think it's deeper than that on this occasion. I just think it's deeper. I think the people that are going to be there and the people that have always been there, I think they deserve the most respect, really. And I'm lucky to have a ticket. It's not. I'm not directing that at myself. I'm lucky to have a ticket for the last game. The people like Paul and people who've been going decades and decades and decades, and it is their life to be at Goodison. I think any time on the Sunday, I think would be acceptable. I actually think earlier in the afternoon the better, because then you've got a few hours before where you can just get up and walk around, and I'll do my lap, and I'll do 2 laps. I might even do 3 laps that day. But I think it also gives the time afterwards for people to just look at it, just take it in, just work out what this moment means to you. Where on a Monday night, greatest will in the world, you're probably not able to do that. I think that would be really sad.
One thing just quick as well, sorry, I've spoken to a ton of people who are looking to come down for the travel down or up or whatever for the day. That probably won't happen for a lot of people on Monday. A lot of people won't be able to. Like Ian down in Brighton, for example, he's a really, really good photographer. He wants to come down, and he says, well, yeah, if I can get a ticket, great, but I'm not expecting to. So I just want to be there and just be able to sort of capture it and take some great photos and things like that. And there's loads of people who are just like, whether they're local or coming from, want to travel from quite far. And, I think that sort of thing's got to be respected too. And, it's a special day for a lot of people. And it suddenly becomes much less possible for people to do that on the Monday, and becomes much less special because there just isn't that time. And if it's an evening kickoff, there just isn't that really that buzz, for want of a better word. I think it would be whatever it ends up being. Look, it's we'll have to deal with it, and Evertonians will be there and they'll make the most of it, and that'll be it. But it will be a shame for a lot of people, I think, if it is on the Monday instead of the Sunday.
Yeah, no, I agree. It would have to be separate from the other fixtures for it to stand alone. So, with the other fixtures kicking off at 3 p.m. on the Sunday, then it would have to be 1 p.m. or 5 p.m. onwards on the Sunday. I think that would be the best for all concerned. But as you said, Andy, we'll see what the TV company end up deciding, because ultimately that's probably what's gonna hold sway, unless Everton hold firm. But
I don't even know whether they can. Who around that table, who goes, no, it's going to be this time. I mean, I genuinely don't know.
Well, I mean, it'll come down to how many. I don't know. I mean, is there more money from Sky if you're the Monday night game?
Probably.
I don't actually know the answer to that question.
I don't know if it is.
Don't know actually.
So,
but I mean, you've got the Premier League, who are obviously in charge of creating fixtures, in charge of the administration of the game, who might say one thing. You've got the broadcaster who's going to broadcast the game, who would have quite a bit of sway because they're the ones that are effectively paying for it. But then you've got Everton, who are going to host the game, and I actually don't know. I actually don't know on that table genuinely how that works and who kind of goes, well, we're sticking our heels in here. It's going to be 4:00, I'm afraid, guys. Don't know.
I worry though, like, is that it might be a bit like how sort of like Boxing Day sort of plays out now or whatnot, because there's no games on the Saturday. Well, there's the FA Cup final on the Saturday, sorry. So there's no Premier League games then. And so there isn't. They can't allocate Friday as a slot either. So I'm getting that. I got a bit of a concern like it's not going to be necessarily like all the games are at 3 and the rest of it sort of. I think they might really stagger out the games as best they can. One will be at 12, one will be at 2:30, there'll be a few at 3, there'll be, you know what I mean, one at 5, one at 7:30. You know what I mean, they're really gonna. Then another one Monday. You know, TNT, Sky. They want their, they all want their piece of the pie there. You know what I mean? So they don't want to, they'll shoehorn as many TV games as they can into that day, I think. You know what I mean? So the thought of going, okay, great, we could just be the 5:30 kickoff that would normally be Saturday, might not actually exist because they're also staggered into these. You know what I mean? So as long as we're one of them, I don't really mind. But I suppose they'll want Everton to be. Yeah, presumably they'll want a show if they've got a light show afterwards or whatever it is they're looking to do afterwards. They'll want to sort of that. They'll want to show them on TV. So. You presume they'll want that at the end of the TV schedule. So, yeah, it seems. I mean, and there's been a bit of sort of like signs up outside Goodison saying licensing and all that. We've all heard about them. So, it feels like reality. It's either going to be the late game evening game Sunday, which has been a few of, which are kicked off about 7:00 or so, or evening game Monday. And we really got to hope it's the Sunday.
Yeah. Yes, I think you're right. Okay. Well, let's finish off with another. What are we calling this segment? 10 questions? This is Paul's idea. So, we just christened it 10 questions. I suppose I should try and find said 10 questions, because I am going to fire them at Andy.
I feel quite pressured about this. I mean, I know you guys did this last week, and
there's no pressure.
Feels like I'm really kind of on the spot. I feel like for lighting, I should now have a spotlight in this room.
It's just 10 quickfire questions, and either or, you just pick one, and there's no right or wrong answer. So, Andy, number 1, Lee Carsley or Idrissa Gueye?
This is terrible.
He's got him already.
Idrissa Gueye.
Okay.
I don't have to explain it, do I?
No, you don't have to. I mean, you can if you want, but no.
No, I'm not going to.
Manuel Fernandez or James Rodriguez?
Oh, see, I watched one of those play, and I didn't watch the other one. I watched one of those score
and
a fantastic goal.
That may ultimately influence your answers, because I think they did for.
Some of those.
As I say, there's no right or wrong answer.
No, Rodriguez.
Okay. Pierluigi Collina or Mark Clattenburg? not the worst. Which one you would pick to referee a game?
Oh my goodness
An Everton
me!
Game.
That is cruel.
It's horrific, isn't it?
It's sadistic.
I'm going to pick Collina because he can't make that mistake twice. We know Clattenburg can.
That's a good shout. Top balcony or upper Bullens?
Upper Bullens. It was where I went to my first ever Everton game.
Okay, there you go. Wimbledon 1994 or Crystal Palace 2022?
Oh, you absolute rotter.
And again, it could just be personal experience. It's
I'm going to go Palace because it made me cry at an Alan Partridge gig.
There you go. Another very good reason. Anfield Worldies, Phil Jagielka or Graham Sharp?
Jagielka, it was one of the first times that my partner and my stepdaughter ever visited my parents' house, and we were listening to it on the radio, and we scared both of them at the end with my mum and my dad's celebration. So Jagielka.
Nice. Walter Smith or Frank Lampard?
I love how Paul Trell's just laughing in the background. This is who I prefer, right?
Yes, who you take if we had to hire one of them again? Obviously, dear Walter's departed, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it gives Frank a head start in that respect, doesn't it?
We're going to say a headstone.
Walter Smith.
Okay. Young Diamonds, John Stones or Jared Branthwaite?
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
And recency bias could influence your decision.
It could. I think I would still go John Stones. Okay. I just think, especially at the time we got him, you could tell instantly he was a star. And I think, I think he changed an awful lot, even of the way we played. And Jared Branthwaite's amazing. I just think John Stones, just takes it.
Just. Veteran defenders, Richard Gough or Ashley Young?
Richard Gough.
I thought that was an easy one. I would take Richard Gough.
Yeah, there was something wonderful about that.
Yeah. And finally, last minute winners, Walcott at Watford or Doucouré versus Forest?
Oh, the pure comedy of that Walcott one with Moise Keane. Kind of not passing it at all. I'm going to say Walcott there, just because the way the match panned out, it felt more dramatic with Walcott. Yes. Like a 0-0 draw turning into 0-1 is kind of dramatic, but what were we, 2-0 up at Watford? Yerry Mina scored twice.
2-0 down.
Sorry, 2-0 down. Yerry Mina scores twice in almost the same goal twice, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's got to be Walcott.
Yeah. Agreed.
And was that was under Carlo Ancelotti and Duncan Ferguson jumped on him or did something towards him? Is that right? Have I got that right? There was a Duncan reaction there. Oh, hang on, better Google that.
You're going to have to look it up now. I can't remember when it was.
It was under Carlo, but I don't remember the Duncan thing, but it probably happened. He celebrated like mad, didn't he, when whenever we scored?
I'm sure there was something there. It was absolutely wonderful. I can't find.
Yeah, it was 1st of February 2020, so that was the end of middle of Carlo's half season.
Yeah, I just think that whole time of kind of, oh wow, this is happening. We've got Carlo Ancelotti as our manager,
and we were down to 10 men too, which was fun.
Which was Ashley Young.
Fabian Delph.
Oh, of course it was.
Ashley Young lookalike.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
I don't remember the red card.
I do. It was on the touchline. It was a bad tackle near the touchline, wasn't it? Like the near touchline.
I remember.
It was it was a nothing incident. Like I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, while we ponder that, we will finish there for another week. If you've made it this far, thanks for listening. Tune us back in early next week when we'll review another difficult assignment for David Moyes' boys when these soon-to-be deposed champions come to Goodison for the last time. But until then, have a great week, Blues, and up the Toffees.